Have you ever hit that sweet spot where everything's going right, doors open, and opportunities magically appear? That is what golden alignment is all about. Dr. Beth Golden loves to play in that golden space and teach others how to get there and stay there. Get ready to listen, share, and experience what golden alignment in life can look like for you. Now, here's the host of Golden Alignment, author, speaker, and coach, Dr. Beth Golden.
Hello, and welcome to today's show of Golden Alignment. I am Dr. Beth Golden, and my very special guest today is KellyAnne Zielinski. And KellyAnne is the CEO of Self-Leadership Global, as well as being an author, entrepreneurial mentor, and former teacher of 7 years. Self-Leadership Global is a leadership consulting firm, and it is dedicated to supporting individuals, teams, and organizations in increasing their influence, impact, and income by developing self-leadership skills and then working harmoniously in collaborative cultures. They envision a world where every man, woman, and child experiences a life of self-leadership and becomes the model for happiness and fulfillment. This next statement is very true. KellyAnne Zielinski and her do-gooding team are the catalysts for this current and next generation of individuals making a difference in the world through self-leadership. Her purpose is to inspire, educate, and empower individuals to collaborate and work harmoniously towards a greater cause of mankind. KellyAnne preaches that when an individual becomes empowered, they tap into their full potential and connect with others on a deeper, more heart-centered level. Well, good afternoon, KellyAnne. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, I happen to be part of Self-Leadership Global, and it is a fabulous organization. I have to say that initially it's like, well, what the heck is self-leadership? KellyAnne and a variety of us have become familiar with that term and utilize it in our lives now. But KellyAnne, if you could share how you came up with the term self-leadership and maybe give our listening audience a little background into who you are and how you arrived here today.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to share. Thanks for asking. So my journey started in Buffalo, New York, and at the time I was an elementary school teacher, and I was really struggling about 4 years in with monotony. I really felt like I was living a monotonous life, and even though I loved education and I loved the students, I really felt as though there was more, but I didn't know what more was, and I didn't know how to get it. And so I lived a good portion of my life not necessarily feeling like the leader of my own life. I remember constantly asking for others' advice and opinions and ideas on what they thought that I should do and who they thought I should be. And I never really took the time to really lead and influence myself. I'm not sure if it was due to lack of confidence or not necessarily just having the skills, I think, to really have an idea of what that looked like. And so about 4 years in, I started seeking out leadership development because I was starting to feel a little dissatisfied in where I was in my career. And I remember just feeling a little bit caged by the politics and the system within education. And so I started to seek outside of education because education did not offer leadership development for teachers who just wanted to stay in a classroom. Typically, leadership development was for teachers who were looking to gain more responsibilities or to become an administrator. And I was just looking to better myself so that I could be a better teacher for my students. And so I sought outside of education, found a really amazing leadership program, and at that same time put myself on a self-made study program where I studied the most successful people in history. So if anybody listening has studied anything by Napoleon Hill, you would know that that was kind of the route that he took. So I am always telling people that I took a Napoleon Hill route. And I started to really learn about myself. And that's when I started to know and understand different levels of my own leadership and how I was leading myself or lack thereof, and started making some shifts in my life. And that's really what we started to call, I started to call self-leadership. So being able to lead and influence my mind, emotions, behaviors, and results.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, tell us the story about your teaching experience and how you started sharing these insights with your students, and then what happened with test scores and your personal visibility because of this.
Sure. So once I started learning about myself, and what I mean by that is I was putting myself through exercises along the lines of understanding my values and my vision and my goals and my core desired feelings, and understanding how my presence was affecting everything that was being magnetized back to me in my world. And as I was understanding these things with myself, I started to see results, and I started putting it into a curriculum for my students. At the time, I taught second grade, and I was in the inner city of Buffalo, New York. So I was in a Title I school, 97% free and reduced lunch. Most of these kids were being bounced between homes or in foster care, so they were very emotional. And so as I started doing this curriculum with the students, I started seeing their behavior improving and their scores improving in all different areas of education. And I started seeing them be kinder to each other. And so it was really interesting because that year, their achievement increased by 20%. And then my last year of teaching, which was the following year, it increased by 30%. And at that same time,
wow,
I was also doing this work with some of the teachers in my building because there was a real disconnect happening in our culture. And that last year, the culture, the happiness levels in the culture of our community increased dramatically. And so people were communicating better and they were supporting each other. It was a really great situation. That last year, the district started to notice the increase in achievement in my students, and they came in and asked me what I was doing different. So I realized I was onto something and resigned from teaching and moved across the country.
It's making a fresh start.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'll do something different. I'll get back to you on that one. Go ahead.
It's tricky though, because one of the things that happens in education is if you create something, right, they have access to that and they own it. So it wasn't necessarily in an official curriculum at the time, but it was like the starts of it. So I really believed that I would be able to take this further.
Great. So you drive out to Colorado, and initially Self-Leadership Global had a different name and perhaps initially a different point of view or intention. And because this show is called Golden Alignment, and as I've stated on numerous occasions, our alignment changes as is necessitated by our outside world or different circumstances in our life. So can you share kind of that evolution for you and for the company?
Sure. I love what you were talking about regarding alignment, and also in the intro to your show, because it's so true. When we are in that space of alignment, everything shifts. And what I didn't mention was during that same time when I was in education, I started meditating a lot. I started doing a ton of yoga. I was doing acupuncture. I was doing anything to be able to calm and relax my internal and external being, which opened up all of this space to have all these new ideas come in. And so that's really where I gained the confidence to be able to realize that I was onto something when I was creating this curriculum, not only for myself, but for my students and other teachers in my building. So when I moved out here, I was really excited because I started up an organization that was geared around supporting women and women entrepreneurs and knowing who they were, what they wanted, and how to get it. I knew this worked with me. I knew it worked with my students and some teachers, but I needed to know that this self-leadership curriculum worked with individuals in all different industries and all different forms and facets. So it was a really fantastic first experience in the world of business for me. I had zero business experience whatsoever. My dad was an entrepreneur and business owner, but I didn't really learn anything from him. So this was a fresh start. I took a fantastic course by Brendan Burchard called the Experts Academy. That was the true catalyst for the expansion of my business as a whole. I really learned how to be able to build a system and build a framework and then be able to pull multiple levels of products, programs, and services from that framework so that we're reaching people at all different levels in multiple different ways and at all different price points, if that makes sense. So I worked with women entrepreneurs, and then my heart was still in education, and I wanted it all. I felt like I could have it all. So that's where Climate and Culture Connection was birthed. So my individual coaching practice was expanded into an organization that had two different legs to the organization. We were receiving outside contracts from different types of industries, so schools, nonprofits, for-profits, to support not only with teachers and students, but additionally with culture work. And then the other leg to the organization was our internal community. And that's when we were magnetizing lots of different types of coaches, speakers, trainers, consultants, authors, sales representatives, folks like that, to be able to support them in building and expanding their business models.
Yes, and that will take us into my next question. The Self-Leadership Global website is beautiful and just recently updated. And there are 3 sections. There's one for individuals, there's one for teams, which address culture within organizations and teams. And then there are organizations. And this is the perfect time to go into our first commercial break. And on the other side, we'll have KellyAnne kind of reiterate what each of those are. And the center of the Self-Leadership Global family and how that's developing. So we are going to go into our first commercial break. You are listening to Golden Alignment with myself, Dr. Beth Golden, and my guest today is KellyAnne Zielinski.
Do you want to create change in your life based on your values? Do you want to love this experience we call life because you are living in alignment with your soul's calling? Do you want to expand your relationship with abundance and move from surviving to thriving? By tuning into Inspired Choices radio show, Golden Alignment with Dr. Beth Golden, you'll receive tools and inspiration you can use to do just that. You'll be amazed by your golden health, wealth, love, and magical opportunities. Listen for the Golden Alignment radio show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, and 11 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Welcome back to the Inspired Choices radio show, Golden Alignment with Dr. Beth Golden. To participate in this program, please call U.S. 815-880-8255, Canada 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You may also choose to comment by email by going to www.drbethgolden.com. Now back to Golden Alignment with Dr. Beth Golden.
Welcome back. You are listening to Golden Alignment with myself, Dr. Beth Golden, and my guest today is KellyAnne Zielinski, and KellyAnne is the CEO of Self-Leadership Global. And before our break, we were talking about her beautiful website, which you can check out at selfleadershipglobal.com, and the various levels of entry. And I like the fact that you have organizations that you're working with and teams. I have come in on the entrepreneurial side. And so if you can share a little bit about each one, and I can give some perspective about the entrepreneurial side from a receiver of your information.
Sure. So I'll start with organizations then. So when we work with organizations, that's typically executive coaching. We work with different levels of executives that are looking to not only increase their influence and impact within their organization, but learn how to be able to support others in doing that as well. So to build their communication and their communication skills, as well as different levels of leadership skills. When we work with teams, we do typically culture work. So we go in and we support different levels of leadership within the team and support them, again, in being more communicative and collaborative so that they can develop a culture of self-leadership. And then finally, we work with individuals. So individuals come to us more from the entrepreneurial background, although we have had professionals seek us out individually within different types of industries. So we have multiple teachers, we have flight attendants, we have CPAs, we have sales representatives and insurance representatives. So we have a lot of different types of folks in the organization. However, typically we attract coaches, speakers, trainers, consultants, and authors. And that's where we found you, Beth, or you found us. I think it was an equal exchange of value there.
It was, with a mutual friend of ours. One thing that KellyAnne and I discuss frequently is I have been an entrepreneur for 11 years now, and I have spent hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars on business coaching programs. So they can be a year-long program. Individual coaching programs were always better for me because it met me where I was at and what I was needing at that time. Now, I have all that information stored within my being, but when I went through those courses, they weren't always in alignment with what I needed, where I was at, or my sense of self-worth, confidence, and clarity. And I have found that whenever I have focused on self-love and self-mastery, that has given me the springboard for exponential growth within my business. So, KellyAnne, share with us some information about the foundation of the program, which is the Unabridged Leadership Methodology, and addressing self-mastery first.
Sure. So it's so interesting that you talk about that, because that's typically the piece that people want to skip over, which is why our whole business is based around this topic and concept of self-leadership. Because it's easy to do, but what people don't realize is that we could take action until we run ourselves into the ground. And it is about action, and even before it's about action, it's about getting in alignment with who we are in our self-leadership and what that means to us. What I see oftentimes is that people are building these businesses, but they're not sure of who they are, what they want, how to get it, the ideal lifestyle that they're working towards or living into. So they just become slaves to their businesses. They're working more hours for less pay with less results being a business owner. And so what we do in Self Leadership Global is we start with the Unabridged Leadership Methodology, which begins with the core and foundation of self-leadership. And that is really gaining absolute clarity on who you are and what you want and how to start stepping into moving towards that every single day through implementation, application, and practice. And then we move into how do we take that self-leadership and guide others to their own self-leadership. Oftentimes that's what we're really doing in business, right? We're teaching folks a skill, or we're guiding them through a process to be able to get results. And they come to us because we're the expert. And so we teach you how to do that. And then additionally, after that, how do we do that in a community? Because as business owners, the way that we're really going to move the furthest, fastest is by collaborating and connecting with others and delegating and supporting everyone in fulfilling their individual visions, so that we come to a collective result and a collective vision. And then finally, being able to do it all from a place of service and fulfillment and meaningful work. Because I think that's really what we're looking for when we become business owners, is feeling connected to doing meaningful work and what feels like satisfaction and fulfillment in our own lives while creating influence and impact and income. And so that's really the core and foundation of Self Leadership Global as a whole, is we start with this, the unabridged leadership methodology, so that you know who you are, what you want, how to be able to work with others in order to be able to fulfill your vision and everybody's vision, and do it all from a place of meaningful and satisfying work so that we're living into our ideal lifestyles. And then we move forward with the business intensive.
Right. Well, what I love about this and what you said, that people want to skip over it, and that is business owners, when you identify, I share this a lot with my clients, 3 or 4 core desired feelings, core desired values. You have those as bookends. So whenever you're moving forward in making a decision or a choice regarding personal or professional life, those can be your guideposts. And if you don't have those guideposts, you can be tossed by the waves of opinion. And instead of being very centered and stable and being able to graciously smile and say yes or no, because that's equally as important as a leader. And then being able to work with others, because we're really in a world based on competition, which is the patriarchal mindset, which is shifting. But it's competition. So I like the fact that you're talking about collaboration and how that might look. So we go through the unabridged leadership methodology. Quickly tell us what that looks like, how long that might take, and then let's touch on the next steps of going into the business intensive.
Sure. So the unabridged leadership methodology is a 12-week course. Something that's really that I really think that separates us from other organizations is that once somebody's in the organization, they're in for the life of the organization. So as long as we're around, you're with us, and anything that we add into the organization, you receive for free for life as part of that initial membership. And I think that that's really important, because one of the things that you were talking about earlier, Beth, was that, you had done multiple levels of programs, and, you were taking coaching opportunities over here and then more programs over here, but there was no real community that was holding it together, and there was no long-term support. And even though you weren't ready then, you may have been ready in 2 years, and at that point in time, it's already gone and done and over with. So one of the things that was important to me, because I was experiencing that as well, and one of my mentors mentioned it to me, is that, if I'm not getting what I want, then I should create it. So that's really how Self Leadership Global, the community, was created, because I didn't want to keep buying into programs. I wanted to be part of something that felt creative and collaborative and supportive long term, and that it wasn't just a one-time deal. So thank you for sharing that, because I think that that's important to mention, that and I think every business model is different. So those people have their own business model that works for them. And that's one of the things that we teach throughout our business training as well, is that every business model is different. There's not one right way to do business.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So talk to me about, let's go over the 4 pillars of the unabridged leadership methodology, and let's touch on, once we have a firm foundation in this. I am a facilitator for Self Leadership Global and this methodology, and it really changes lives and hearts and knits the people together that are in these groups, and that's what also creates the safe space and the collaboration. But if you could go over those 4 pillars for me, I would appreciate that.
Sure. We go through 4 pillars of leadership, and within each of these 4 pillars are 3 principles of leadership. So the first pillar is self-leadership. And as I mentioned, that's really getting to know self through and through and begin practicing living into your truth. The second pillar is outward leadership, and up until this point in humanity, I think outward leadership has been about me leading you. But if I lead you, then that means you're a follower, and we don't believe that people are followers. We believe that everyone is a leader, at the very least, the leader of their own lives. So we guide folks through outward leadership, which is guiding others to lead self, to their self-leadership. The third pillar is community leadership, and that's leading with and within a community. And it's really important to come in with that kind of a mindset as opposed to, I'm going to lead this community, or I'm going to fix this community, or these mindsets, or these emotions. It's really just a shift from competition and obligation to collaboration and holding everyone capable to who they truly are. And then finally, we move into the fourth pillar, which is service leadership. And service leadership is doing what you do from a place of love and service.
I'm writing things down. It's like holding myself and others capable. And I think it's important, and I have incorporated that language, I am capable of. Because sometimes we don't think we are if it's something that's new, which could cause fear just because we don't know what the outcome is going to be. It's like, well, I'm capable. I'm capable of taking the first step. I'm capable of asking for help. And I think the self-abridged leadership methodology really encourages us to ask for help. We are loners as it is as entrepreneurs, and I think it's really important to have a community of good resources where we can tap into that. So give us an overview. So once you go through the methodology, or while you are in it, you qualify to take the business portion, which if you are highly energetic and organized, that's great. But if not, it's a lot of information, and I wouldn't recommend doing them concurrently. So please share about the two different business intensives.
Sure. So we have a foundations business intensive, which really takes all of the information that I learned from Experts Academy and in a chunked down form and fashion. So what we really focus on first and foremost is building a framework, or what we call a signature system for your business model, because this is the why of what you do and how you do it. And it also is the end result that you're going to be supporting people and getting and guiding them through. So what we found is that most business owners don't have a framework or any type of signature system for, this is the result that they're promising, this is where their ideal client is, and this is the step-by-step they're going to guide them through. If we don't have that, then it makes it really difficult to market or to launch or to really magnetize those clients that you feel like are good fits. So we start with that framework piece. And Beth, I'm sure you could speak to this as well. I think a lot of people go through different types of certifications and different types of programs, but they're never taught after they get certified how to actually build a business and get clients. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. This is, again, a perfect time to stop for our second commercial break. I do have some notes that we're going to address about this on the other side. You are listening to Golden Alignment on Inspired Choices Network. I am Dr. Beth Golden, and my guest today is KellyAnne Zielinski, who is the founder and CEO of Self Leadership Global. And on the other side of this commercial break, we'll pick up on putting all of this together and how a framework works to your benefit. So we'll see you on the other side of this break.
Do you want to create change in your life based on your values? Do you want to love this experience we call life because you are living in alignment with your soul's calling? Do you want to expand your relationship with abundance and move from surviving to thriving? By tuning into Inspired Choices radio show, Golden Alignment with Dr. Beth Golden, you'll receive tools and inspiration you can use to do just that. You'll be amazed by your golden health, wealth, love, and magical opportunities. Listen for the Golden Alignment radio show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, and 11 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Welcome back to the Inspired Choices radio show, Golden Alignment, with Dr. Beth Golden. To participate in this program, please call U.S. 815-880-8255, Canada 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You may also choose to comment by email by going to www.drbethgolden.com. Now back to Golden Alignment with Dr. Beth Golden.
Welcome back. You are listening to Golden Alignment with myself, Dr. Beth Golden, and my special guest, KellyAnne Zielinski. And before the break, we were talking about switching from self-mastery to creating a framework for your business. And KellyAnne had asked all the business things I had experienced. KellyAnne, we never discussed a framework. It was all the how-tos. We did talk about core desired feelings and your client base, your niche, but they never went into frameworks. And as an educator, that is really one of KellyAnne's specialties, and being able to be very succinct and to help people chunk it down so they can be succinct. She is trained in creating curriculum, so it's a help as a leader. So how are you helping people? This is not a linear process. And people get confronted with their own stuff, whether that's fear or feelings of inadequacy or frustration because they don't feel like it's happening soon enough, even in the supportive environment. So how do you address it? Because it can be very emotional and it can cause people to say, screw this, I don't want to do it.
Sure. We have come across that many of times.
I know, that's why I said that. I love the story.
I tell people when they first join the community, within the first 3 to 4 months, you could pretty much expect to come up against every single trigger that you have personally. And then when you move into the business intensive, that's a whole nother world of triggers that you're going to come up against, because it challenges you. It challenges you to love yourself. It challenges you to maintain an internal peace and grace throughout the process. It challenges you to really have the awareness of whether something is in misalignment with where you're looking to go, or if it is a learning curve. And I think that's one of the biggest distinctions that we've made in the organization is, hey, does this genuinely not feel good in a way where it's not the way that you're wanting to move forward? Or is this something that's creating frustration because it's new, it's a learning curve, and things are taking longer than you anticipated? And so we really go into what people are going through in the moment. Because we're an organization of self-leaders, we really look for folks to reach out to us. That's part of your self-leadership, is asking for help when you're in a moment of challenge or struggle. I do that with myself. I have 2 mentors and a coach. And so it's really just a matter of when I feel like I'm up against that wall or backed into a corner and I really am not sure of the next steps because the mind is racing with everything negative possible, where, you're beating yourself up, you're judging yourself, you're not sure what's happening, the confusion sets in, all of that's happening, and you need another perspective, right? You need that support. So that's number one,
absolutely.
First and foremost, we stop, and we really get a feel for, number one, what's happening, and number two, what's the emotion that's coming up.
Right. And that's important, because when we're working on a framework, if someone has never created one, that could be a trigger in and of itself. The beauty
what I
of
hear
the course,
often, if I could cut you off for 1 second.
Absolutely.
No, thanks. What we typically hear from business owners when it comes to framework is, I'm not organized. I'm not an organized person. This might be your strength, but this isn't my strength. And it's really our job to be organized for our clients, in my opinion. If we're not going to be organized for them, then that's going to create confusion when we're chatting about our offerings, right? So people are looking to us for the clarity that they don't have.
Yep. And not everybody has to agree with what we're clear on. We're going to attract the people who are to be a part of our group or our services. And I think that's another place where entrepreneurs initially, when they're building their business and might feel a little bit icky with income or a steady flow thereof. And so they're going to want to shift their information around so that they get the clients. Well, that doesn't serve anyone, and it's extremely frustrating as an entrepreneur if you have someone that really isn't in alignment with the program that you're offering. So I appreciate within Self-Leadership Global nope, these are the rules. If you like them, great, and if not, you can go someplace else, which is very honest and very important. To that point, Ms. KellyAnne Zielinski, can anybody become part of Self-Leadership Global or any organization utilize your services?
That's a great question. The answer is no. We really have a very strict framework for the folks that we invite into the organization, mainly because that was a $30,000 mistake that I made in the beginning of the organization, where we did take everyone. And just like you were saying, some folks will be a vibrational match and some folks will not. And so I feel like every time that we brought on someone that wasn't necessarily a great fit, that supported us in the long term in clarifying even more who a good fit is. The number one thing that we look for when it comes to entrepreneurs in the community that join is willingness. And that's really important because they will come up against their triggers and their mental and emotional blocks. And so a deep desire and commitment to being willing to moving beyond that is something that's required in the organization. So typically if someone's still in a space of complaining all the time or blaming other people for their results, or there's just a general lack of awareness, that's typically when I'll refer out to other communities or other coaches that would be a better fit for where they're at, and then recommend that they come back in 6 months if they feel as though they're ready. For organizations, it's really values-based. So if I don't agree with the values of the organization or what they're doing in the world, I will say no. So for me personally, I don't believe in pharmaceuticals, and we said no thank you to an organization that wanted to hire us to come in to support their leaders.
Well, I do appreciate it. And for clarity with our listening audience, because I've gone through this and because I've come up with against my stuff, and KellyAnne has been gracious enough to hang in there, we both have, and it really teaches good communication skills, what I'm needing, what my expectations are. And we have enough people in the organization and leadership roles where that now doesn't always fall on KellyAnne's shoulders. But when people are talking, you pick up on things. But how do you know when you're talking to them if they're willing, or are they instantly complaining or blaming, so is your presence triggering that stuff in them just by you talking to them?
That's a good question. So I ask a lot of questions. Part of our process for enrollment is to learn about where someone is, where they're looking to be, and why they believe that they're not there yet. And so it's really a matter of coming in with an observer's eye and an observer's ear to just come from a non-judgmental, loving place of listening to where they're at. I know a ton of coaches out there. So if someone is not the right fit for us in the moment, I definitely know who to send them to support them in getting where they need to be to where they are ready for us. Does that make sense?
Yes, and actually it is a kindness to that person, because those of us on all levels who are involved with Self-Leadership Global, it's a fast-paced, progressive group of people. And if you have any sense of competition, it's like you want to keep up and you want to do well, at least from my perspective, and I want to show that I can, participate in a variety of arenas. So if they aren't the right person, not only are they going to bump up against that emotional stuff, but they're going to bump up against working with people who are movers and shakers and already there. So if they're not, that could be a frustrating situation. And you want people to speak in glowing terms of your organization. So
sure, and we're a mentorship community, and so we really encourage folks to mentor each other. And so something that's very valuable in the community as a whole is making sure that there's an equal exchange of value. So one of the questions that I typically ask people when they're wanting to join the community at one of the 3 different levels is, hey, how do you see us supporting you, and how do you see you supporting us? And a lot of times that's doing workshops for our people, or offering mentorship in moments of challenge or struggle, or offering resources, some level of support. But if someone's in a space where they don't see how they could support us at all, then it wouldn't be an equal exchange of value for the organization and the community. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense. I laugh because if you are interviewing an organization, and if you, KellyAnne, are stating that, that's not always something that people say or talk about. So it's a question that can kind of, make you take pause and think about it, because it's not something that you might readily know, particularly if you don't know the breadth and depth of the organization. But another way that we really help support one another is being present at one another's speaking engagements. And how can I help you? And can I sit at the door and bring people in, so that each person, or spreading the news on our different social networks, so that each person feels really supported and has someone there. And as you were saying, it's not coming from a place of being judged from another person. It is really, really welcome that you have your group of people there who will support you, and in the right timing can give you positive feedback, or things that were great and things that could be improved upon. So I think people in this organization are very open to, okay, that was a step. What can I improve on this? KellyAnne, we are going in to our third and final commercial break. So we'll continue this discussion. We'll talk about the second part of the business intensive, and then any things that we haven't discussed that are near and dear to your heart that people would like to know about either yourself or Self Leadership Global. So we are going into our third commercial break, and you are listening to Golden Alignment with myself, Dr. Beth Golden, and my special guest today, KellyAnne Zielinski, and we will wrap this discussion up on the other side of this commercial break.
Do you want to create change in your life based on your values? Do you want to love this experience we call life because you are living in alignment with your soul's calling? Do you want to expand your relationship with abundance and move from surviving to thriving? By tuning into Inspired Choices radio show, Golden Alignment with Dr. Beth Golden, you'll receive tools and inspiration you can use to do just that. You'll be amazed by your golden health, wealth, love, and magical opportunities. Listen for the Golden Alignment radio show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, and 11 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Welcome back to the Inspired Choices radio show, Golden Alignment with Dr. Beth Golden. To participate in this program, please call U.S. 815-880-8255, Canada 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You may also choose to comment by email by going to www.drbethgolden.com. Now back to Golden Alignment with Dr. Beth Golden.
Welcome back to Golden Alignment on the Inspired Choices Network. I am Dr. Beth Golden, and my guest today is KellyAnne Zielinski. We have been chatting about her fabulous organization, Self Leadership Global. I am part of, I don't want to say entrepreneurial team, but individual team that has been involved with Self Leadership Global. I'm a big fan. I am an entrepreneur and have been for 11 years, and going through the unabridged leadership methodology and the different business intensives that this group offers, I've been able to really clarify my niche and what's important. And to me, what's important is sometimes change is happening all around. You know, when change ends, like we're done. But it seems to be coming really fast and furious, and it can knock us off balance. And it's really important to know who we are, what we want and why, so we gain clarity, and that clarity creates golden alignment. We talked about self-mastery, and my program is based on self-love, so they're kind of synonymous, and changing verbiage about how we say things, and myself being a person who can be instantly critical is constantly switching from negative to what do I want and why. What do I want and why? Because you're looking at a solution and you're changing your focus. So that is a result of being part of this organization. So thank you, KellyAnne, for actively and passively being a part of that.
You got it. One of the things that I love that you were just saying, Beth, is that clarity creates alignment, and clarity also creates action. What we found is that when folks are in confusion in any area of life, including business, it typically creates inaction, procrastination, avoidance, things like that. So I love that you were talking about that clarity piece.
Yes, and KellyAnne, that was her first entrepreneurial adventure was about being a clarity mentor. So she knows all about that. So I'm kind of free-forming it here. We have about 5-6 minutes. So I want to take a deep breath, and you can figure out what we haven't talked about, what you feel is important to people to know, and or, summarizing it and tying it up in a bow so people remember the important points.
Sure. I think coming down to all of it is really the fact that there's not one right way to do life, and there's not one right way to do business. The way that Self-Leadership Global was created was surrounding myself with professionals and entrepreneurs, learning about their business models and taking bits and pieces from that so that it not only created a fulfilling business experience for myself, but also additionally fit into my ideal lifestyle. And also know that when we're living into our ideal lifestyle, especially when we first start doing that, there could be some guilt that's associated with that, right? And it gets easier every time. It gets easier every time we take those actions to live into who we truly are and to live into our alignment and to live into our truth and to build a business that seems a little unorthodox and not necessarily what they teach you when you go to get an MBA. But that's okay because business is changing and the world is changing. The world is not the same, and the way that we do business is not the same. That's the whole purpose of us having the Next Level Business Intensive, which is supporting business owners in taking their frameworks and building online products and programs from that, because people learn differently, they think differently, they show up differently, they want to get results differently. Me personally, my part of my lifestyle plan is to travel. And so it doesn't make sense for me to have an in-person coach. I have coaches and mentors, but I'm able to connect with them anywhere in the world, right? So it just makes sense moving forward to develop businesses and products, programs, and services and a lifestyle that can be done from anywhere. Does that make sense? I think that's the biggest takeaway is to really realize that your life is on your terms, and regardless of what you learned in school or from parents or from anybody else in the world, like, your life is up to you, and that will never be changed. Your life will always be up to you based off of the choices that you make and the actions that you take.
Yes. I know we'll be able to go through this. Now, a year ago, KellyAnne chose to focus on the feeling because we need to be moving from what feels good and away from what feels bad, other than if it's just discomfort with something new. And KellyAnne was focusing on the word alive and what that inspired in her life, and has challenged us to do the same. And can you kind of just give a quick example of that, and then the travel and work opportunities you're experiencing this year?
Sure.
So my mentors
put me through an exercise where I really had to define what success meant to me. And I think success means something different for everyone. And once I was finished determining what that is, and I made a list of 5 general things that represented success to me, and that included not only business expansion, but traveling the world and finding my soulmate. Once they put me through that exercise, then they had me focus on one feeling that they thought was the feeling that would represent success. So I really had to think about that. And like Beth said, my feeling was alive. So I put everything else off to the side. All I did was focus on feeling alive all day, every day. And within a couple weeks, I had a friend who reached out to me and said that he does PR for a professional basketball team. And he said, hey, our team is going to be going to London. Do you want to go? You can go for free and fly in a private jet, which was also on my list. And I said, oh, my gosh, sure. And then a couple weeks after that, I met my soulmate, and we're now living together and incredibly happy. And after that, I moved. I met a friend who had another community that was quite like ours, and I learned how to expand the business beyond what I thought was possible before, and that was implemented. So within a 2-month period of time, everything on that list, from private jets to world travel to soulmates to business expansion, came to fruition.
Yes, that is so exciting. And now, real quick, the clock is ticking. KellyAnne just went on a 3-week road trip and takes weekend trips, but is still able to focus on her business and maybe even better. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
And are you feeling guilty
off the systems that I've been able to create? Absolutely not. It gets easier every time.
Oh. And what we have shared in discussions is if this is what she wants in her life, that she needs to mirror that to the people within her organization. So being able to take off, and we live in Colorado, which is gorgeous, and go to Mother Cabrini, and which is up in the mountains, beautiful views, and be able to do Facebook Live from there, or traveling all through California and sharing that experience while still doing business is an example to the people within the organization as well. So, KellyAnne, I want to thank you for being my guest today. You have been fabulous. Real quickly, can you share your contact information so people can get in touch with you if they're curious about this wonderful organization?
Absolutely. So if anyone wants to learn about the organization, you can go to www.selfleadershipglobal.com. You can contact me directly at ceo@selfleadershipglobal.com.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again. You've been listening to Golden Alignment with myself, Dr. Beth Golden. Thank you for tuning in on a regular basis, and all these shows are archived. They can be found on inspiredchoicesnetwork.com and click on the archive link and look for Golden Alignment. Thanks once again to the fabulous KellyAnne Zielinski. Have a great day. Take care, and God bless.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Golden Alignment. Dr. Beth Golden will return next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, and 11 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Till then, enjoy playing in that golden space where health, wealth, love, and magical opportunities appear in golden